All right, boys and girls. Roger, I see you there saying something in the chat. I appreciate that. Welcome on into the NAIAF Ball Live Show, Week 7. Love it, love it. We had a great little pre-show in the in Instagram. Love getting in there with people and talking and just talking about different teams. Keeps me on my toes. But let's talk real quick before we jump in. Thank you so much to AdCraft USA, your custom apparel, merch, and uniform experts. I saved a shirt. I better transition so you can see my shirt. My Grandview shirt, little Americana, state of Iowa, just for the pod, so that I could see, so that I could show off some of the great work that AdCraft USA does. If you want to get in touch with them, find them at AdCraft Print on Twitter or adcraftusa.com. They are the reason that this is the NAIAF Ball live show powered by AdCraft. They are the ones. They are the guys. They make this happen. So, let's jump into some scores. Why don't we? First off, we have Lindsey Wilson. Lindsey Wilson silencing the critics, silencing the Tigers, 35-0 score there for Lindsey. Now, for the Blue Raiders, it was a very complete game. Cam Dukes goes 17 for 30 for 3 touchdowns, doesn't even scrape 200 yards. And that's because the Lindsey Wilson defense was incredible, led by Luke Bowman's 13 tackles, a forced fumble, and a pick, and 2.5 sacks. The Lindsey Wilson defense only allows 113 yards. 113. There were points in the second half where Georgetown had 30 or so offensive yards. That Lindsey Wilson defense came to play, and I know them boys got donuts for it. I love it. Pitch the donut, get donuts. 8 sacks, 4 turnovers. Jalen Boyd gets a touchdown, 59 yards. You see the stats there for Georgetown. It's just a great game by Lindsey Wilson. I'm not surprised. They had a good defense last year, returned a lot. Let's take a look out to the Midwest. Bethel defeats the Avila University Eagles 54-20. Just runs away with it. Had 2 rushers over 100 yards. Cameron Harrison and Chance Scurry. Joshua Marion adds 2 rushing touchdowns. Tanner Galliard with 100 yards receiving. And defensively, Josh Seabolt gets a pick and 4 tackles for loss, earning the KCAC Defensive Player of the Week. Just a really great game for Bethel, setting the tone, not letting Avila upset their season. Just a really nice way to keep going, and Bethel keeps hopes alive that maybe Kansas Wesleyan can drop one. And if Kansas Wesleyan drops one, well, there's always hope. Good season again for the Threshers. Going up to the upper Midwest, we had Marion dispatching St. Francis of Indiana in the Franciscan Bowl, 55-10. This one was all Marion from the start. Zach Bundalo goes 15 of 27 for 223 yards and 2 scores. The running backs, though, was where it was at. USF could not stop the run. Dalen Taylor and Barron Hubler each score 3 touchdowns apiece. Dalen goes for 203. Barron goes for $130. Ben Stevens through the air, as always, is amazing. Catches 127 yards worth and scores to himself. Just a really great game for Marion to bounce back. It's not over for Marion. Marion has more to do. Now, out west, you had heard me say last week that this would be the first big test for Langston, and they passed with flying colors. Langston bests Texas Wesleyan 42-31, and just had a really good showing doing it. Larry Harrington, 12 of 19 for 312 yards and 5 passing touchdowns. John Lewis with 110 was the leading receiver. Harrington just spread the ball all over. Lewis only caught 2 of the 5. Kevin Allen caught 1 of the 5. Harrington adds 56 rush yards on the day. Not a bad day for Dale Dalton from Texas Wesleyan. Almost 200 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, does throw the 1 pick. But Langston was just too much for the Rams. And Langston, for their reward, well, the Langston fans know what's coming. We'll talk about it a little later on in the show. This is not a field. Well, it is a field, but it's not a baseball diamond. It's not a football field, but it is a beautiful, beautiful open square that Maumee Bay Turf and Turf Nation put in at a school, I believe. They're not just sports constructors, even though that's the big part of it is sports field construction. They do a great job of making turf look good, saving you money and maintenance in the long run. Give them a look. If you're looking to replace your turf, if you're looking to upgrade your turf and downgrade your budget on that turf for maintenance, give them a call. They go from coast to coast. They've put in St. Thomas's grass. They've put in practice fields for a dozen NFL teams' practice or game fields for them. They are the true professionals there, and they sponsor our Players of the Week. And man, what a good set of Players of the Week we've got today, and from some teams we don't usually get to talk about. First up offensively, we've got Nathan Herstich from Bluefield. Tosses 333 yards worth for 6 touchdowns on the day. Big day for Bluefield. And in the Pacific Northwest, Dylan Wampler from MSU Northern has 9 tackles, 3.5 of those for loss, a sack, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, and an interception. Dylan making his presence known, and he was also honored as the Frontier Defensive Player of the Week. He is our Defensive Player of the Week for the entire nation. But what y'all are all waiting for is the poll. Now again, I'll say it again, this is not the coaches poll. This holds no weight when it comes to deciding playoffs, but we feel like we do a really nice job in getting the right teams in the right order. And so here we go. At number 25, we have Olivet Nazarene, who loses to St. Ambrose in a shocker, 17-10. They fall precipitously 9 spots to number 25. Montana Western at number 24 comes up from the receiving votes spot after their bye week. They get to face College of Idaho in their matchup this week. Dickinson State also coming up from the receiving votes at number 23. They are new with the Valley City State loss that dropped them out. It seems that the voters are changing their pick midseason for the North Star Conference champion. And tied for 21st, we've got St. Xavier at 4-2. St. Xavier dispatched Missouri Baptist 31-16. And at number 21, College of Idaho, who had a bye. They will face the aforementioned Montana Western Bulldogs. At number 20, we've got the Bethel Wildcats out of Tennessee. Bethel comes up 5 spots after beating U-Pike soundly 44-13. Southwestern at number 19 goes up a couple spots after beating Tabor 42-21. Kaiser falls hard, down 10 spots after losing to unranked Southeastern. 20-17 on a last-second field goal at home. And they fall 10 spots and put the Sun Division up for grabs. At number 17, Rocky Mountain goes up 3 spots on their bye. And at number 16, Langston, as we just mentioned, beat Texas Wesleyan. They're at 6-0 on the season, setting up a matchup of undefeated Sooner Conference teams this weekend. At number 15, we've got Dordt. Dordt just steady sticking around. They go up 4 spots after they defeat Dakota Wesleyan 45-13. Really liking what I'm hearing out of Dordt, that their offense is starting to really come together and not miss a beat. At number 14, you've got Marion, who, as we mentioned, defeated St. Francis of Indiana, and they stay steady. They get another challenge this week. St. Thomas rises 1 spot, comes out of that tie last week with Marion after beating Strip Mall U, the University of Fort Lauderdale, 58-0. St. Thomas now at 7-0 with a Southeastern loss earlier to Ave and a Kaiser loss to Southeastern. Now kind of has the inside track, but they still have to play Southeastern and they still have to play Kaiser. So St. Thomas is looking to pull off what would be an upset alert in the Sun Division for this year if they were to pull off the conference championship. Faulkner at number 12 rises up a spot after a forfeit after Union forfeited to them. They will, they have a great matchup of their own this week that I will be privileged enough to see in person. And at number 11, Bethel of Kansas, after defeating Avila 54-20, rises up a spot. Now we have the top 10. We have Ottawa of Arizona at number 10. After they have a bye week, they get their reward, a tough reward this weekend. At a tie for 8, we've got Reinhardt. Reinhardt defeats Point 41-0. Indiana Wesleyan rises up 2 spots after their win over Lawrence Tech, previously undefeated Lawrence Tech, 35-0 in a game that they controlled from the first kickoff. Baker at number 7 bests Mid-American Nazarene, 62-20. And from here, you're going to see a lot of familiar faces and a lot of familiar places. None of the top 7 teams move at all. And in fact, most of them don't move that much in their points. Baker gains a few points to stay at number 7. And Kansas Wesleyan, after defeating McPherson, rises up a couple of points as well. I mean, you're not even talking spots; you're talking points at this point, as our voters kind of gel on who our teams are here at the top. And our top 5, Concordia defeats Taylor in a squeaker, 28-21. Taylor getting some good things done there, but Concordia still has that 0 in the loss column. Grandview at number 4 beats William Penn in their heart opener 38-0, honoring former head coach there after he retires from Mount Marty. At number 3, you've got Northwestern, and the thing about Northwestern isn't that they defeated Jamestown 63-7, but it's that Tyson Koima entered the game at quarterback and was 4 for 5. And if Tyson Koima is truly back, then this is going to be a different Northwestern team. Morningside defeats Briarcliff in our weekly Can They Score 100 question. They win 84-7 over Briarcliff, and Lindsey Wilson at number 1, all 7 votes. They defeat number 17 Georgetown, as we said, 35-0. And as we go to our break, here's a look at the top 25, and we will be right back.
This is Anthony Turner from Grandview University, and this is NAIA football.
All right, guys, you heard it here. That's Anthony Grant from Grandview. We've got some great games to watch this weekend. We've got a ton of great games, so many that we had to fit it on 2 slides. So we're going to start out west here, and we have Ottawa going to host the Langston Lions here. Ottawa, both undefeated, and Langston looking to prove themselves, looking to retake the Sooner Athletic Conference from Ottawa, who has won it once, and Arizona Christian has won it once since Langston's had their run of dominance. It's really going to be a good game. Austin McCullough for Ottawa just manages the team so well, knows exactly where to go with the ball, knows when to dump it off, when to go deep. I love what Langston is doing, but I think I'm going to go with Ottawa on this one. Next up, Rocky Mountain, the Battling Bears versus Receiving Votes Carroll, 3-3 Carroll. Can the Frontier not tear itself apart? Can the Frontier have someone who's going to be a front runner? Someone who's going to be able to get into the playoffs? I fear that where they are, and looking at the coaches' poll, Rocky is at 16, which is kind of a perilous spot if you're going to have to be top 20. That's kind of an iffy spot to be for them, and so you really don't want to get too far down the road here if you're if you're Rocky. You've got to win this game. I think they will. I think they'll defeat Carroll. And keep going there on the Frontier playoff run. We already mentioned College of Idaho, Montana Western in a game of kind of second place catch-up of Rocky Mountain. I'm going to go with the Yotes on this one. I think I love Montana Western, how they're playing, but I think College of Idaho is going to get it done. And then Dickinson State, Valley City State. Will Valley City State still be licking their wounds? Or is this one going to be a Dickinson State retaking control of the North Star? They had a couple of losses early. Neither of them were in conference, though. So you can really, if you're Dickinson State, you can really regain control and get control of the North Star with a win here. I think the Blue Hawks are going to do it. Valley City State's got a really good squad, but Dickinson State's been there, done that. They've got the T-shirt several times. I'm sticking with the Blue Hawks. And then, in the rest of it, we've got Morningside Dordt, the start of the GPAC in-season tournament. Morningside after putting 84 on Briarcliff. I can't pick against Morningside. At this point, I can't pick against Morningside. It's just going to be, it's just too hard to do. So that's going to be seriously a fun game. Concordia at Marion. Marion has to turn right around and flush that USF game. Concordia has to flush their close win against Taylor and play each other, because this one's kind of a decision game, especially for Marion. After losing to Indiana Wesleyan, if you lose Concordia, you can almost kiss your playoff hopes goodbye. I hate saying it at this point, but we're getting down to that spot where we're going to start seeing kind of elimination games. And if Marion loses, they're out. I don't see the Mid-East getting 4 teams this year. Concordia has a really good run game. So does Marion. Concordia has really gotten better this year through the air. I'm going to take Marion. It's at home. And they're going to have a little bit of the desperation on their side, knowing that a loss probably takes them out of the playoffs. And that's just going to create more fun in the Mideast with Indiana Wesleyan in the mix. And then the game that I'll be out and watching, Reinhardt Faulkner, the decision point of the Mid-South Appalachian. Reinhardt is at home here. Faulkner just had an effective bye. Reinhardt defeats 0.41 to nothing, so you've got that there. I'm really interested to see who's going to win. Faulkner's got a really good squad. So does Reinhardt. I love what Billy Hall does through the air and on the ground, and I love Reinhardt's offense and how it's developed over the last few years. I'm going to go with the home team. I'm going to go with Reinhardt here. Really, to me, the question isn't really who wins. It's how close are these two squads. If it's a blowout, the loser might not make the playoffs. If it's a close game, you could ostensibly see both Reinhardt and Faulkner making the playoffs, even if one loses. Reinhardt's got that loss to Bethel. Faulkner has no losses. How will this shake out? I don't know. I'm really, really interested to see it. I really am so stoked to get up to Waleska this weekend. Leaving tomorrow, getting up that way, going to see some of the stuff there. Billy Hall is the dude. I will be out and about. Jonathan, I have a mental note to make it by y'all's tailgate. I'm just super stoked to get back to Waleska. It's a beautiful little place if you've never been. And those guys are stoked about football. It's going to be homecoming. Emotions are going to be high. It's going to be a fun game. And it's a trophy game. It's a trophy game. Man, I love a good trophy game. 7 games between roughly the top 30 tells me that about half of the teams within shouting distance are going to be making moves. This is NAIA moving day. This weekend, we will have a better spot at the playoffs, a better idea of how the playoffs are going to go. We'll talk about it here in a second. We'll get into a little bit of playoffs here. But before we do that, I do want to talk about my favorite of all the slides that I have. Of all the things that I get to talk about, I love it when I get to say I had to make the font smaller because we got more patrons. These patrons, guys, this is how we get to travel. This is how we get to go places, is through the support of our patrons. This is how we get stuff like this green screen behind me. Believe it or not, I'm not in North Newton, Kansas, at Bethel. I am not at Bethel right now. It's cold enough in Florida. I'm sort of glad I'm not in North Newton, Kansas, to be quite honest with you. This is how we get the nice stuff, is these guys here supporting us. So thank you too. Ooh, better get a swig of water. I'm going to do this all in one go. Ace Wellen, Cordell, Austin Steele, Jody Hoagland, Jerry Quickle, Alex Garcia, Eric Wingert, Nathan, Ronnie Atkinson, Fred Christensen, Shirley Labella, Jeremy Vobble, Trisha Prescott, Roger Meyer, Dylan Swears, David Bob Boone, Cliff Kreisel, Darren Brett Croshell, Danielle Quinn, DSU Cone, Ian Sweeney, Blake Sentman, Keith, Charlie Simmons, Marty Seabolt, Justin Cobb, Dane, Nick Bazell, Hayden Ferrigno, Steve Card, Marty McFly, Cam and Cam World, Cliff 9/A Hemerson, Art Kastner, Jeff, Kyle Gregory, Lance DeMont, and Jacob Smith. Thank you so much for your support. So let's talk real quick about the playoffs. Oh, and yeah, Chris, I would love to come to a Baker game someday. Those heart games are no joke. But let's talk about the playoffs. I'm going to bring up my coaches poll here. And I'm just going to start going from the top. So how this works is there's 16 teams. And there are 12 divisions and or conferences that if your conference champ is in the top 20 of the polls, you get an auto bid. I like our system better than baseball system where there's multiple auto bids depending on how big your conference is. And weird ways to do it. I kind of like this system. Top 20 for your conference champ. This is why we're talking about Rocky Mountain being kind of in a weird spot because you got to make that top 20. And then you'll have 4 at most at-large teams. And so they're going to have to be around that top 16. So let's go through this. Lindsey Wilson. Lindsey defeats Georgetown and gets that out of the way. They still have to play Cumberland's, who is probably going to be fighting mad. And they still have to play Bethel, who has shown a great deal of growth this year in year 3 under Mike Jasper. Lindsey holds their future, as do a lot of these teams. Northwestern, Morningside, both hold their futures. They both hold their futures. They have to play each other. Win that, don't lose to Dort, and you're in. Simple as that. Simple as that. The loser of Northwestern Morningside will probably still get in the playoffs. It's the way it's been the last few years. These are 2 very high-level ball clubs. I don't mind them both getting in, but that's going to eat up one of your at-larges. Grandview from the heart of America. Let's see. Let's pull up Grandview's schedule and see who they still have to play. They just started. Last week was their first actual conference game. So they only play 5 conference games. Play Graceland this week. Their big kind of 2 that they still have to play are going to be Peru State and Culver Stockton. I like what Peru State's doing. They've got a good squad. I love what Culver Stockton's doing. I've been saying that for 2 years now. If you're Grandview, you hold your destiny in the palm of your hand. Concordia at 5-0. Let's see, how much of the gauntlet do they have left? We know that they've got Marion this week. They've already beaten Siena Heights. They've already beaten Indiana Wesleyan. They've got Marion, then they've got St. Francis in mid-November. Now, St. Francis is not the team that they have been for the last 4-6 years. The St. Francis team's a little down this year, so defeat Marion and take care of business. If you're Marion, you're at a bad spot. Marion is at number 11. Losing and you may be out. Indiana Wesleyan at 8 has to be careful as well. They've got to finish up strong. Baker has the 1 loss to Grandview. That doesn't hurt anybody's feelings. You've still got Benedictine and Central Methodist who just took care of Benedictine left on your schedule, as well as Evangel. For the last, before last year, that Baker Evangel game was what really decided the conference or the division on that side. So if you're Baker, you got to take care of business the next 3 games. You just got to take care of business. Let's see. Kansas Wesleyan. Kansas Wesleyan is pretty much done with the big red flag games. They've beaten Bethel. They've beaten Avila. The one game they really have left is going to be Southwestern College, and that's their last game. Even if they lose the game to Southwestern, they're probably in the playoffs because they're going to hold that tiebreaker over Bethel, and I don't see them falling all the way out. Indiana Wesleyan, just win, baby. Let's take a look at that schedule. You've already lost to Concordia. You've beaten Marion. You play St. Francis this week. You play Siena Heights next week. You do that and you don't trip up against Taylor or Madonna, but against Taylor, and you're in. That one loss to a good Concordia squad is not going to hurt. It's the gauntlet. That's the way it's going to be. Ottawa of Arizona, you got to handle business this week. If you're Ottawa and you handle business this week and you don't have some other weirdness against either Borregos Monterey. Oh, no, that's canceled. Never mind. If you don't have some sort of weirdness against Wayland Baptist after a win against Langston, you're in like Flynn. You don't have to worry. You just got to win. Reinhardt. Reinhardt at 10 and Faulkner at 14. I think if that game is close, the loser might still get in, especially with what's going on in the Bluegrass, the Mid-South Bluegrass, with it being a little bit Lindsey Wilson and the field. I think you might be able to pull 2 spots out of that. But if you're Reinhardt, you just like we said for the other teams, just win. You hold it in the palm of your hand. You play Faulkner, St. Andrews, Union, Kentucky Christian. You can easily win the Appalachian. You just got to take care of Faulkner. And now we get to the ones where it's going to be super, super interesting. Kaiser at number 13. You know what? I'm going to do? Let me throw this up here. Make it a little bigger so y'all can see what I'm looking at. Make sure that looks good on the screen. Yeah. If y'all can't see that, let me know. Yeah, Roger, you're exactly right. Any team not in the top 10 needs to win out. That is the truth. So let me see, where were we? We were on Kaiser. Boy, that loss to Southeastern really changes things. You're at number 13, and you still have to play St. Thomas. And you still have to play an Ave Maria team who beat Southeastern. You gotta take care of business. You gotta beat St. Thomas. If you're St. Thomas, you gotta take care of business against Southeastern and Kaiser. You're not going to be undefeated and miss the playoffs. That's all there is to it. Faulkner's gonna have to beat Reinhardt. We're getting to the point where we're gonna have to have a couple of upsets. Yeah, you gotta beat Reinhardt. Let's see, Dort, you've got to win. You might sneak it in if you barely lose to Morningside and Northwestern like you did last year. But do you really want to take that chance? Do you really want to take that chance? Rocky just has to not fall off. In the Frontier, they play each other so much that they play home and homes. And so that Frontier ends up eating itself. So you've got to play at Montana Tech versus MSU Northern and at Montana Western. That game at Montana Western and at Montana Tech, those are going to be tough games. You've already played Montana Tech at home. You've already played Montana Western at home. Now you've got to go to their place. That's going to be risky. Southwestern needs to, they need to defeat Kansas Wesleyan to feel secure. They lost to Bethel. They won against Avila. They've got to beat Kansas Wesleyan. They've got just the one loss. And let me tell you, folks, just ask Avila. Just ask Avila. The coaches will leave out a second KCAC team in a heartbeat. Don't let Avila happen to you. Good Lord, that was loud, and I apologize. So, Langston, you gotta beat the teams left on your schedule. You've got a very backloaded schedule. You've got Ottawa of Arizona, Arizona Christian, and Southwest Assemblies of God, along with Louisiana College. Again, they're not going to hold out an undefeated team. The coaches will not let an undefeated team not make the playoffs. All of it. This is the one where I could see maybe not having a playoff team, is the Midwest. With all of it defeating St. Xavier, and then all of it turning around and losing to St. Ambrose. That puts all of it in a really, really sticky spot. And they've got a game coming up against Roosevelt. Roosevelt has a forfeit loss to St. Xavier. Let me see if I can find Roosevelt's schedule and look at Roosevelt's schedule. Roosevelt are they receiving votes? They are, but barely. At Judson, which is not a nothing game, versus the same St. Ambrose team that just beat Olivet, versus St. Francis, who will bite you, and at Olivet. I got a feeling that Olivet-Roosevelt game is going to decide things. Then Georgetown. That is a huge... It's not just that you lost, Georgetown. It's how you lost. That's going to be tough. Let's look at Valley City State. Valley City State is in a really interesting spot. You defeat Dickinson State and beat them soundly, you're back in the top 20. If you don't, it's going to be a problem. St. Thomas down here at 7-0. Winning a game and dropping a spot drives me crazy. You got to win. You got to win. After this week, we'll know more. Those 7 games in the top 25 are going to be, or in the top 30, are going to be huge. All right. So, taking some YouTube questions now. Do the top 8 teams get home games? Usually, if it's not a COVID year. Last year, we had some issues with Michiganing. And they gave, sorry, Concordia fans, I'm going to bring up a bad memory. They gave Concordia's game to, Concordia's home game to Georgetown. And they made them travel. So generally, yes, the top 8 are going to host. And so it's really good to do so. But if you've got teams that are close and are on different sides of that 8, I could see them tossing them together. I know they try not to do the same conference in games like that, in that first game. But yeah, you could totally see a top 8 team not get the spot. Yeah, Bethel and Kansas Wesleyan are the only two KCSE schools that belong in the playoffs. I would agree with the eye test. I would definitely agree with the eye test. But Bethel has that loss, and if Southwestern beats Kansas Wesleyan, just like we talked about the Frontier, that's going to be that's going to be really, really interesting. We're going to really have to see after this week how these games play out to see where we're going to be jockeying here and where there's going to start to be who's going to get their heart broken. Avila, Benedictine got their heart broken last year. Dordt, Georgetown got in. It's a really, really fine line. It's a really fine line. And I love the way they're doing it with the Raiders. Raters, not Raiders. With the Raiders with a selection committee. I think that's well done. I think the selection committee picked a really good slate of teams last year. And so as we get into these last weeks, we're going to have to see how those ratings start coming out and where teams are in that. So we should be seeing that fairly soon. We're in the last 4 weeks. We should be seeing, just like the playoff committee gets together, we should be starting to see some ideas of what this looks like. Trying to see if I can find. Let's see. Yeah, those are dates of ratings. Let's see if I can find. Where we have stuff here. Yep, so it's going to be soon where we start to see the selection committee really start to get involved, and where we see the selection committee start to maybe not exert their will, but start to figure out how we're working. That should be coming out fairly soon, and that's going to be a little separate from the coaches poll. They use the coaches poll for guidance, but it's not the be-all, end-all. Let's see. Can anyone dethrone Lindsey Wilson? That's a really tough question. That's a really tough question. If anyone can, it's a Cumberland's team with their mind right, or it's going to be a Bethel team who wants to play spoiler. USF of Illinois, man, y'all keep begging me to sleep on you. Keep begging me to sleep. I've been watching. Y'all are going to be part of the problem in the Midwest. It's a good problem for y'all. It's a bad problem for everyone else. USF has a tendency to reach up and bite people. And we'll have to see how that goes down the stretch. Can they reach up and bite one of these front runners and take them out of the race? It's a good squad. They've been on my radar for the last 3 years now. All right. Any other questions in the chat? The bees are buzzing. St. Ambrose is definitely buzzing after defeating Olivet Nazarene. Oh, my word. Let's look up St. Ambrose's schedule. Heck, why not? Whew, 3-4. Losses to Waldorf, out of conference. Concordia of Michigan, other side of the conference. at Lawrence Tech, who was at least undefeated, and at Judson. Man, that's such a hard loss for all of it. My brain has a hard time wrapping itself around. You've got, oh man, they can play spoiler so bad. St. Francis, Illinois is next for them. At Roosevelt, St. Xavier home, at Mobap. If you're St. Ambrose, keep stinging. Keep playing spoiler. Keep making chaos. I love it. So, as you can see, my camera has decided to go dark. So thank you so much for coming with me on this journey. Keep your eyes on our Twitter feed as we give you scores from around the nation, and as we start to see these playoff spots kind of get themselves figured out. For John Cooper, I am Cory Thorpe. If you are at Reinhardt, DM us. I want to say hi. I want to shake hands. I want to meet you. I don't care if you're Faulkner. I don't care if you're Reinhardt. I don't care if you're somebody's third cousin twice removed. I want to meet you, shake your hand. That's the coolest part of this whole deal for me is being able to meet people. It never gets old. So we will see y'all on the Twitter feed. Thank you for watching.